Masechta Zevachim, Dav, Ayin, Vav, Amid Aleph, is starting from the Ayin Hey, Amid Beis, from the Mishnah. Zok, the Mishnah Hashem, Shem Nesar V'Shlamim, a cup Hashem that was mixed with a cup Shlamim, where we know the blood is sprayed on the same places, Maravas Dreimis, and the opposite on the diagonal, to cover all four sides, the B'Shimon Shnei Mishchat V'Safik, that both of these kabbanis, the Asham and the Shlamim, are going to be gishachtin in the tzafim of the Zara, like the more chamadik carbon that was mixed up. Asham and Shlamim. Asham is limited, that the only place where it can be slaughtered is in tzafim. Mashenk and Shlamim is in any place in the Zara. So we go, if the Shlamim got mixed up with the Asham, we're going to follow the chumnas of the Asham, dafke b'tzafim. And then we're going to eat like the Chamash Behem. The dinner of Achilas Asham is only eaten in Azara. So now the Mashain King Ashlam can be eaten all over. And it's only eaten by Kahanim versus Ashlam can be eaten by anybody. And it's only eaten for 1 day and 1 night versus Ashlam is 2 days, 1 night. So we eat like the Chamash Behem. So we eat like the Chamash Behem. Chacham said you can't do that. We're not allowed to bring the kachim in the eifim that it can make the shlamim become nicer before it's time. You can't limit the asham, which is more lenient, to make it 1 day, 1 night, and after that it'll have a din of nicer. Rather, what do we have to do? Both of them, you have to let pasture in the field till they get a moment, and then sell it, and we buy the kabbanis. So that's what the Rabbanon say. You're not allowed to limit the more lenient carbon. Here we're not talking about it as live carbonis, where there's a tikkun that you could let it get a mum and then resell it. Here we're talking about it's already slaughtered. A piece of one carbon, a piece of meat of one carbon that got mixed up a chatichas of meat of another carbon. Kachim that was mixed up with kachim kalim, like a toida. Meat of a toida got mixed up with a chatas or asham, which the zman for eating both a toida and a chatas asham is like a 1 day, 1 night. But the way it's eaten, it's different. Lamashal a toida can be eaten by anybody. A chatas and asham is only by male kahanim. Or whether the basa kachim and a cholim l'yayim echad got mixed up bin a cholim l'shnei yom l'ayla echad. For instance, a basa shlamim got mixed up, which is eaten for 2 days, 1 night, got mixed up with a basa toida. Otherwise, everything is the same. It could be eaten by anybody, and the zman is the time. I'm sorry, not the zman of eating it. It could be eaten anywhere in the azara, but the zman of the achila is not the same. There, everybody will agree that we're going to follow the more chamadik one, only for 1 day, 1 night, because here there's no tikkun that like by when it's live animals that sheyiru she'achi yistavu till they get the animals she eat till they get a mum and then sell it. Tanatan kamei there was one Tana that learned this Raisa before that. It's at the Septon Shviyis. It says Shviyis ain't like midamah truma. When one sells Peder Shviyis, one should not buy the Peders of Shviyas with money that he exchanged for Truma and use that money to buy Peders Shviyas. Because you're limiting the Zman of Achilas Truma, because the din is Truma is Mut B'Achila La'olam. Shviyas, as long as they're still in the field, whatever you have in your house, you can eat it. But if that mean is gone from the field, you have to take out that same mean that you have in your house, bring it outside, and make it hefker. Amru Rabbanon, Kamei the Rabba, the Chacham said before Rabba, but they gave this Braisa, the lake Rab Shimon. This does not follow, this Braisa does not follow Rab Shimon. The Rab Shimon, Amar, because if it follows Rab Shimon said in our Mishnah, Shemavi and Kachim Lebeis Absul, that we are allowed to limit a shlamim that got mixed up with a chatas, and say that the shlamim should only be eaten for 1 day and 1 night, like the chatas, and only be and the shlamim should only be eaten by male kahanim, and only in the azara. So you're limiting the whole carbon shlamim. That's what, and Rav Shimon holds that you're allowed to limit. Obviously, this mission that says you shouldn't buy perishviyas with truma because you're limiting this man of truma is obviously not following Rav Shimon. Amalahu. So Rav said to Rav Shimon, we can even say follows Rav Shimon. The Yava. But Rav Shimon never said that it's aser that it's mutar lechatchila. He said only that it was done. It was after the two kabbalas got mixed up. Then you're allowed to be market both because and limit the zman of the more lenient carbon. But lechatchila but Rav Shimon's ma'ida lechatchila you're not allowed to be memayid the zman achila of a shlamim or something that is able to be eaten a longer time or by everybody. You're not allowed to limit that lechatchila. Rav Shimon is not matal lemayid. There's man of achila of a carbon which has a longer zman and to limit it to a shorter zman, even l'chatchila. Esa Abai is going to ask from the following Mishnah, the Kula, and it says all the kabbalas that are eaten, that are mentioned in the Mishnah. The Kahanim are allowed to eat it in different ways, meaning lachon sluyin, shlukin, they could eat it roasted or cooked a lot, or cooked regularly. And to place in it spices of chulin, and spices of tumah. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon. So you see, Rabbi Shimon allowed to spice the boss of a carbon, and a carbon is a limited time with tavlinei tumah, which is not limited. You can eat it all the time. So you see, even though he's being magbil the spices of tumah to the same time as of the chila of the carbon. You see that the Shimon allowed it lechatchila. So he holds that you mevi and lebeis hapsula even lechatchila. Amalei said, "I said Abaye hanach letumas talvin. Don't bring a raya from the truma of spices. That's only midrabanan because it says dog mesidah sheyitza only grain, wine and oil. Those are midaraisa. But tavlin is only with the Rabbana. But if it would have been a tumah daraisa, then the Chacham would have been then we would have not allowed it. It's only because it's with the Rabbana that he allowed the Chatchila to limit the zman of tumah because it's only tumah Rabbana. In fact, you might have the Mishnah ain't like tumah because of Maisa says kohenim that had money that they redeemed Maisa Sheni with, that they have to bring up to Yerushalayim and buy food and eat the Kiddush Maisa Sheni. They shouldn't buy it with the money of Truma. Why? Because the one who buys Maisa Sheni, he can only eat it in Yerushalayim. And so he's limiting the space of the place of where you can eat the Truma. That can cause a hefset. But Shimon says, no, you can buy Truma of Bekesa Maisa Sheni. You could buy Truma with the money of Maisa Sheni, which would limit the place where the Truma should be up to eat. So you see, Reb Shimon holds that Mevim Kach Lebeis Apsul Ish declared kept quiet, and he didn't have what to answer Abaye. Okay, Kiyos Lekabe de Rabbi Yosef. When Abaye came before Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef said, "Abaye like to survey meha." Why didn't she ask the Rabbi also from this following Mishnah? It says you're not allowed to cook the vegetables of Shviz b'shem shel truma in the oil of truma. Shelo yevias Hashem shel truma lebeis hapsul, not to bring the shem shel truma into beis hapsul. Since you're mechuyev to eat the yerek with the shaman that's in it before the zman habir of Shvius, so you're limiting the zman of truma. Reb Shimon matir. Reb Shimon says you're allowed to cook it. So you see, Reb Shimon doesn't ask to bring kodesh lebeis hapsul even lechatchila. Amalei Abai said to Rabbi Yosef, "V'lami Yisvei Mahad Tavlin." Did we not ask from the another Mishnah that spoke about Tavlin Truma, like we just said before? Amalei Hanach Truma Tavlin Abanan. He said, don't bring a raya from Tavlin, which is Midrabanan, because Rabbi Shimon was Meichel when it came to Midrabanan, that you could limit it. Hachanami, so too, you could answer, this oil was only Midrabanan. It wasn't the oil that's of the minim that the Torah says is truma. It was only it was an oil that was only midrabanan, and truma is shehi kedush rabbanan, which is only a kedush rabbanan. Meaning it wasn't olive oil; it only was oil that came from other growth, like from shumshamim or from nuts. That's where the oil came from. If we're talking about that the oil was midrabanan, that the Tana should have said it in the opposite, where it would have been clearly seen that we're talking about Truma D'Rabbanan, like Yerek Shel Truma. You should have said it instead of Shemen Shel Truma, where you can make a mistake. And he doesn't even state that it's Shemen Shel Truma. He should have said Yerek, that the vegetable of Truma, which that is for sure, only D'Rabbanan with Shemen Shel Shvius, with Shemen Shel Shvius. Because Tam Shemen B'chol Makim is the Shemen, is olive oil, which is Minat Torah. So, and you didn't state what kind of oil it was. If you were talking about oil which is from nuts, which was only midrabanan, then he should have stated it, or he should have said it in a way that it would have been visible to everybody. He should have said yerek. Where yerek is only midrabanan, it's only to midrabanan. So Abai answers that Rava could have answered the kasha like this: did we not ask? Did I not ask Rava from our Mishnah the Matir Rabbi Shimon? Rabbi Shimon was allowed to be makiv the taruvis of Ashram with Shlomim, even though he's bringing the Shlomim to a limitation. And nevertheless, Amali the Yarif. Nevertheless, he said that it's talking about an oifen that he already did it b'diyavad. Not lechatchila hachanami the Yarv. So too, Abaye could have answered. I'm sorry, that Rava could have answered the same thing here in this case. That it's talking about b'diavad. It was already mixed, but lechatchila you're not. If it was already the shemen shel truma was already mixed with the truma of shvius, and that's why he was matir. That's how you're learning Rab Shimon was matir, because it was only b'diavad, but lechatchila not. What's the reason of the Chachamim that asa to cook the taruvis if it's already, if the shemen was already nibla b'yerakes, it was already absorbed in the vegetables? Why shouldn't the Chacham be made to Shimon that you're allowed to cook them together? So if your mother, Abai answers me, this is just like the din of Ashram Shlam that got mixed up, that our Mishnah comes to tell us that even though the Kabbalah are already mixed up, the Chacham are not matir to bring the Shlam Libdei Psul. So to here, the Chacham are going to ask to cook the Shemen with the Yerek, which the Yerek had absorbed from the Shemen, even though it was already mixed. They're going to ask it. So Rabbi Yosef explains his previous shayla. Is the Shemen of Truma similar to the case of our Mishnah? Hasim there in our Mishnah is like takanta b'reiyah. Our Mishnah, the live animals, there's a takana that you could yirachi istavu, you let it eat till it gets a mum, and buy other kabbanis. That's why the chamor machmir not to be makiv, not to bring them l'dei psul, not to bring kachim l'dei psul, not to limit the kabbanis, in who should eat it and this man. But in the case of Shemen Truma, Leslie takanta b'reiyah, there's no other takana. If you're not going to allow them to cook it together, the whole thing is going to be you're not going to be able to do anything with it. Says the Gemara, this is only similar to the second case of our Mishnah, where it was already pieces of two kabbanis, different kabbanis that were mixed together. They're keeping the less takanta, and in our Mishnah we also learned this. Since there's no other way of correcting it, then we eat at least like the chamash like the kabban which is more chamer. Let's say if it's a asham, ashlamim, so then we would only allow it to be eaten azara, and only by kahanim, and that's it, and only for one day or one night, because there's no other takana for it. At least we don't destroy the whole food. Maskiv Lord Avina is the kasha midami is the case of shemen truma similar to the chatichas of the carbon. Chaticha b'chatiches, where now Mishnah spoke about pieces of meat of one carbon being mixed with another carbon, less la takanta cloud. There's no takana, there's no way of correcting it. Hi, but the vegetables being soaked in the oil is like takanta b'schita, you could squeeze it out. Rav Yosef answered on this kasha, how are you going to squeeze it out? If you're going to squeeze out the whole shaman that's in the vegetable, kamafsa b'shviyas. So then you're destroying the peiros of shviyas. Because of the schita, the squeezing out so much, you're going to lose a part of the yerakis, and that's destroying the peiros of shviyas. And in this purta, and if you're only going to squeeze out a little bit, and leave some in the peiros, at the end you have Shem and Tumah still mixed with the Yerakis. That's why he said that l'chatchila you're allowed, because there's no correction for it. Just like by the chatichas, it is similar to the two chatichas of two different kabbanas getting mixed together, that we allow to limit the chatichas to the more severe kabban, dafka for one day, dafka male kahanim, and not anybody, and dafka for one day, one night. Esrei, Abai is the kasha to Rava from the Braisa that talks about a suffix mitzvah. Rav Shimon says lamachras. The next morning after there's a time when he's a muzga and there's a time when he's a muchlit. After the 7 days of muzga and he becomes tahar, then they do a taglachas, they shave his whole body, and they pour oil on his right ear, finger, right toe. So it says, and then the 8th day he brings a karban asham. So the 8th day, maybe I would say asham v'lugaima. He brings a karban asham on the 8th day of his tada, meaning after he shaved the second shave. So on the 8th day of his tada, the Mitzvah brings a karban asham and a lug of shaman with him. If this karban is the karban of Mitzvah, that I was a Mitzvah muchlit that was healed and I was chayv karbanes, harei asham is a lugay. So this is the behema which is designated for the asham, and the shaman for the lug shaman that comes together with the asham Mitzvah. V'im love, but if he wasn't a Mitzvah, then asham zeh shall shaman nedava will be designated for a karban shlom that comes as a nedava, but not as a karban asham. The oise, then afterwards, that suffix, Asham Tan Shchita Batzafin, it needs to be slaughtered in the north of the Hazara Umatan, and the giving of the blood on his right ear, and Behenes on the right thumb and the right toe, like the Chayma of a Asham Etzera, Usmicha, but then you also need Smicha, like by a karban shlamim, you have to lean, the balabais has to lean his hands on it, unesachim, and it needs also libation, utnufas chazar sheik, and the raising of the thigh, the breast and the thigh, like a shlamim. So it has the chayma of the asham, and it has the chayma, you use all the chumas, you do all the chumas of the asham and the shlamim. But then it's also only eaten for one day like a karban asham, and only male kahanim like the chayma b'asham. So if this person wasn't a Mitzvah muchli, then the karban that he's bringing is a shlamim. Nevertheless, if Shimon was mated to be makiv, even though he wasn't a Mitzvah, it could be he wasn't a Mitzvah, if Shimon was mated to be makiv it, and he gave all the chumas of a asham that it's only for one day and one night. So you see that Shimon is mater to being kachim lebeis hapsula chatchila. And for the Gemara there, it's different. Tikkun gaver shiny. So when a person needs a tikkun, so in this Eifel Rab Shimon was matter to diminish the time of Achilas Shlamim in order to purify the person completely to be able to be matter him to eat kachim. Says Gemara, this goes good for a asham. Loig Hashem, what are you going to do with the loig, with the loig of oil? How are you going to be makav it if he's not a Metzayra? If he's not a Metzayra, what are you going to do with it? Says we're doing a lot of Metzayra, maybe he's not a Metzayra. Oh, it's happening. He says this loig should be a cup in the dava if he's not a Metzayra. Says you want to do a lot of Metzayra who buy mikmas. If he's not a Metzayra, the only way oil could go on the Mizbeach is only through Kmitza. So you have to do a Kmitza from the Shemen in order to burn it on the Mizbeach. Says the one that's not a kasha, the Mekamitz. He makes a Kmitza on the oil. In fact, what we're doing with Metzayra who Ubay Matan Sheva. Maybe he's a Metzayra and he needs the 7 sprays of oil like we learned by a Metzayra. Keneged the base Kodesh HaKadoshim, he has to spray from the oil 7 times. He says that's not a kasha. The Yarv, Tak and the Kohen sprays from the Shemen 7 times. In fact, what about Chasalei? If he's going to do a Kmitza and he's going to spray 7 times, so there's, I'm sorry, if he's going to spray 7 times and now he's going to have to make a Kmitza, so the lug of Shemen is going to be, I'm sorry, if he's going to make a Kmitza and then he has to spray 7 times, after the Kmitza, you're missing oil to be able to spray 7 times. Says no kash. The Maisi Pruta, after the Kmitza, the person brings a little bit Shemen from another place in Malalei, and he fills it up till it's a lug again. It's not that we learned in the Mishnah that it's you're allowed to do so. Chos halug, if it was missing a lug of Shemen, Achelo Yotzak, before the Kohen was able to put it, the Kohen he took from the Shemen and he put it into the left hand of a different Kohen in order to spray. He would take with his right finger from the Kohen's hand and spray the same time. If there wasn't enough, Yimalenu. So you fill it up with other Shemen until he completes it to the shear of a lug. So you see from here, if you're missing from Shemen before the beginning of the Avodah, you're allowed to add Shemen in order to be mashal in the lug. We said if he's not a Metzayra and the Shemen is a cotton nedava, so he has to burn the kaimitz on the mizbeach. So he has to burn it. So he says this is not a kash da'aktele. The kohen is taka going to burn it on the mizbeach. When could he burn this kaimitz of Shemen? If it's after he sprayed the 7 sprays of the oil, havalahu, so the Shemen is already a covenant dava, and the leftover Shemen, shirayim shechasa ben kmitz la'aktara, the shirayim that is missing between the kmitz and the aktara, meaning the shiari hashemen that was taken off a little bit between the kmitz and the aktara, because after he did the kmitza, he sprayed 7 times. So it says once you do burn the kmitza, you're not allowed to do any avodah with the shirayim. And here, what did he do? He sprayed 7 times. It says it says in the Torah that once you do the kmitza, you're not allowed to do any avodah. And if he burned the Shemen koydem matna shava, if he burned the kmitza of Shemen before he sprayed the 7 times, so how can he now spray the 7 times? Any carbon that was burnt on the mizbeach, the chelik that was ready to be burnt on the mizbeach, so the other part, which is called the shirayim part, that leftover part, it's in the isa bal saktiru. You're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to burn on the mizbeach. The hazaz hashemen is in the place of burning the carbon on the mizbeach. We learned it out from the pasuk. It says, we need to remember this pasuk for later on also. The word mimenu is extra. From what do we learn out from mimenu? That from once the carbon of that carbon was burnt already, loy saktiru, mimanu, from that carbon that you already burned, loy saktiru, you're not allowed to do any more aveda. And here he's doing azaz. If you learn that he does the kmitza, and if the kmitza on the shemen, he burns it, and then he does 7 azais. How can he do 7 azais? Once the kmitza was done, he cannot do the 7 azais. Because it's loy saktiru means is the same thing as the azais are the same thing as burning. Is aveda. You're not allowed to do any aveda. The mazik lahu l'shem eitzim. He says just like a person could take the sheyari hakabones and put it on the mizbeach just for eitzim maracha to be burnt on the mizbeach because that's not a haveda, so he's not over bebal saktido. Same thing by us. When he sprays from the leftover oil, he could say it's l'shem mayim. It's like water with the kavanah that the hazah should be like throwing water stam, not for haveda. The Tanya that we learned in Rabbi Lezer says, "Well, Amizbeich." The pasuk. I'm going to say what this pasuk says. "Well, Amizbeich leyalo the seru dvash and anything that's pasuk akter lereich nechoyach. Lereich nechoyach means l'shem carbon yatamayla. You're not allowed to bring it if it's going to be l'shem a carbon on the mizbeich. That's forbidden. You're not allowed to do any aveda for l'shem carbon. What's left over, avalatamayla, but you can bring on top of the mizbeich l'shem eitzim. Whatever is left over, you can bring like eitzim arach, which is not a aveda. Just like the Torah didn't aser the rest of the carbon, if it's only l'shem to add eitzim as wood on the mizbeach for fire, for fuel of fire, but not as aveda. So too, the Torah didn't aser that the sheyari hashaman, the leftover shaman after the kmitza, should be considered that the oil that was sprayed, l'shem mayim, which is not l'shem aveda, is also going to be mutter.